Welcome, everyone, to the DNX Show. My name's Todd Ryan. My co-host is Josh Reason. We're here, we say, every Thursday, and try to catch us not being here one Thursday. Well, actually, next week we're going to be in Las Vegas at the ICA Meetup. We'll talk about our plans. I'm going to jump on. I think Arif may help us out because we're going to stay very consistent this year about domain investing, have a weekly show where we talk about domain investing not legal news. We do that on Tuesdays, but domain investing news, mostly about domain investing topics, how to improve your results as a domain investor. But of course, we've got tons of topics today. But Josh, I'm very excited to get rolling again. First show in 2026. Tell me, how are you doing today? What's up?
I'm doing good. Yeah, nothing much. Just the usual, kind of going through my routines, domain related routines. Did some uh like fitness stuff this morning. I go to this place up the road from me that's super convenient, called Degree Wellness, and they have like all these different things that you can use, like saunas, cold plunges, oxygen therapy. They have like I don't know, 50 different things that you can use. So I like to go there in the mornings as well. So, but other than that, just the usual.
Great. Well, it's one where Josh is. So thanks everybody on the East Coast. Thanks everybody wherever you're at. It's 10 where I'm at. I'm here in Los Angeles area. But so Josh, quickly, and then we're going to welcome our guest. And we don't, we said it's an open discussion. We want to get rolling here just for a minute or two. And then I can't wait to speak to Lady Rocket. So please be patient just for a second because I wanted to ask Josh, this is exactly what we wanted to know. Okay, so Degree Wellness, are they on degreewellness.com? I'm just curious when you go there, are they have their own domain name or what are they on?
It's a good question. I think they do have degreewellness.com, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me just check.
And
Yeah,
they
they do. Yeah,
yeah,
that degreewellness.com. Yeah.
yeah, so at least they're on top of it. They wouldn't want to get on your bad side. All right, well, okay, so I'm not as interested. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Your routine with regards to physical and your well-being there, but what is the domain routine? I mean, people would like to know yours, but yeah, really, what is it? Just beginning on a Monday, Tuesday, it's the same every day? Or tell us a little bit about how you maintain your domains, what you do to stay in shape in that area.
Yeah, I mean, most of my morning is uh somewhat DNX focused as well. I'll catch up with the people on my team, which is Lee, Dave, and Leanne. And most of you here know Leanne. Um, she was sh- she's a fairly recent. She's the most recent addition to our team. She's been uh, with us at DNX for maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, 3 months. Um, and she helps me with a lot of things. So she's super useful. Just takes a few things off my plate, and she's very good with. I mean, firstly, she just knows a lot about the industry, but she has a lot of other skills as well. She understands domains. She's very organized, and I'm not that organized. So I catch up with them every morning. I go through, new names that hit the market every morning. I, analyze names that have dropped in price, identify names that I want to highlight at DNX, identify names that I want to put in the newsletter the following week. Go through my own portfolio, respond to inquiries, respond to emails. All of these things. By the time I get through all of those things, the morning is typically gone. Especially uh, because most days of the week I want to get a workout in early as well. So um, yeah, the day slips by pretty quickly.
I wanted to say, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here for 2 hours today. We go for a couple hours, and then we're here every week. So I love, I ask Josh a lot of questions that I'm interested in, so I know really what he's, up to. And then I have some wholesale questions about how you price names today. There's some personal stuff I wanted to know, but I have dozens, literally dozens of topics today, domain investing topics. This is an open discussion, so I see a lot of, you know great domain investors and friends here in the room. So please raise your hand, come on up. We're going to jump into topics. I wanted to welcome Lady Rocket. She raised her hand and came on up, and I don't think we've ever spoken, but it's a pleasure to have you here. What question or comment did you have?
Uh, Yes, good morning, Todd and Josh. Thank you for welcoming me so nicely. I am looking forward to learning from you, but quick introduction. I'm a major investor in the domain names, but using unstoppable domains. I was the traditional investor a long time ago, and wanted to contribute to your discussion a different investment model and different utility, different enhancement of the value of the domain. And my program got a significant direct buy-in and investment from Unstoppable Domains. They actually curated and gave me two domains that they set up specifically for me in response to my brand, to my investments in space, and the fact that I developed a program for my domain investors that is quite unique. And in addition to the investment benefit, something that works beautifully is the fact that I tied my domain also to the very unusual philanthropy. As an investor in space and founder of a blockchain based space economy platform, Copernic Space, I also funded sending of the digital assets to the moon. So
Okay,
my
hold on
two
for a second.
domains,
Hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. You had a
yes,
nice welcome. Yeah, you're going to get to know me real fast, and Josh too. For one, it's almost sounding like you're about ready. You're like pitching some program you built, which maybe
no, no, no,
we'll
no,
talk about. But hold on. It's not even.
yes,
For one, I'm trying to catch Josh. Do you follow anything yet? Because I'm about ready to get back on topics. But I mean, are you following? So I understand you work with Unstoppable. Sounds like you got some experience in the traditional domain investing space, which we do, and we also have a lot of knowledge in the room
yeah,
with Web3 and Unstoppable. I got some great jokes I'm going to do at the ICA event
okay.
coming up on Unstoppable. But so what are you getting at here? You want to learn
So
about traditional
uh,
domain investing? Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to listen to you and just let you know that I am a investor who is available to work with others, but um, the way that I differentiate the domain that I share with Unstoppable, I engage artists who paint my domain because my two domains that we did with Unstoppable is Lunar for sending domain in space in real world, and then Mooncats, which is dedicated also to fundraising to save life of cats. Because I can, I offer my partners for free sending their domain as a part of the SpaceX moon mission actually to the moon as a space asset. So I am just introducing briefly that there are. I just came back from CES and we presented domain art at Art Basel. So just introducing myself as a resource, as an innovator in the area of domains, and appreciating your presence because I've never seen till about a week ago when I discovered you that you are organizing such an important place for for talking about domains. And my investment in domains is a sideline of my overall space program, but I recognize importance and legacy of domain investment, and I would say social, cultural, and financial impact that domains can have if they are curated also, I would say, outside of the traditional way. So let me stop here. I don't want to
Yeah. No,
um,
great. I
invade your
mean,
space.
you
And
don't
thank
sweat.
you.
I let you go more than I let Ragu talk, and Ragu's going to probably send me a message saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah, lady. So what you're going to catch? What I would recommend here is, I was going to say that first thing. Yeah, go on mute. Is listen to how we sort of handle things here. A lot of the contributions that are made from the community, because a lot of us we've been in the domain space. Some of us for 25, 30 years, investing in traditional domain names. I got to admit, I haven't sent any to space. I did just come back from Venus. Okay. But I mean, the point is, so you're going to get a gist of who I am, Josh's experience, companies that we operate, I'm getting ready to launch a domain fund. I can't wait to, talk with some ICA members about what I'm doing there specifically. Josh knows I'm going to tackle him next week. But so we have a big, I don't know if you're familiar with the ICA, that is the Internet Commerce Association. That's
Yes, I am.
an industry
Oh,
organization, and fantastic. Okay, so we have a big meetup next week. That is, I'd say, an important event because a lot of us that are real serious about domain investing, as well as a lot of companies that vendors that we do business with, show up there. But I bring that up because from being domain investors myself, like Josh operates a company, DNX. I operate some companies with some attorneys when we try to help people apply for the new GTLD. So a lot of us are business oriented. We're primarily here in this space. We like to talk about domain investing. So I'm going to get rolling right now. Thanks for being here. You can stay on stage, and if you get too crazy, you watch it. Sometimes I'm not easy to work with. But I sure hope we get some hands raised because I see so many folks here. I can't wait to hear from. But Josh, before we get rolling, Naked Eyes. Okay, do you ever listen to them, or were they before your time? Okay, so I can. Josh, you're on mute.
Sorry, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry, sorry. I'm checking back in.
yeah.
Before my time, I guess.
Okay, because promises, and always something there to remind me. And they're like, I figure they fucking grew up right where you grew up earlier than you because they're 80s, 90s band. But anyway, what great stuff. Um, a lot of great stuff came from where you came from, and then they spit you out too, out of that area. Hey, so Josh, one thing I wanted to mention to you, I was bummed at. So I saw on Shane's list one time, I think it was on his list, lighter fluid. And then I see this name sells for like 400 and some dollars. Well, when lighter fluid, what an easy thing to say and to do. And it's a way to, get your charcoals going too. But I mean, what a great name. It's only like 400 and some bucks. Now, I'm sure if I would have seen that and bid on it, it probably went up higher. But what do you think of a name like lighterfluid.com?
Lighterfluid.com. Um, I mean, how much did you say it sold for? 400?
Yeah, it was like 450, 460, I believe. It was probably
I
a,
mean, I feel like that's kind of in line with what I would expect, like a kind of like a I would consider that like a low end exact match name. Like, do you think that that's a big market? Not really, right?
well, I just think the meaning of it, lighter fluid. I don't think there's much lighter fluid anymore. All those old time lighters can be expensive, but lighter fluid, it's almost like gas. Of course, a longer version, but it's almost like to get things. You put lighter fluid on it, but lighter fluid, it just sounds cool to me. I just thought it sounded
Mm,
cool. So maybe as not not a super valuable name, but I thought, geez, I'd spend I probably would have spent a couple grand on it. I mean, 2,000, 1,500 to
really?
2,000. I would have because I think in lighter fluid, I'd love to have that as a brand. I mean, a name of anything in any business. It's cooler than, in my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong. If anybody has any comments,
No, I mean, like, that's one of the things about domains, right? I mean, if you see that as a cool brand, then yeah, it's inherently going to be a little bit more valuable to you than maybe me, that where it doesn't resonate with me as much. But there are going to be names that resonate more with me than they do with you as well. And it's just, I guess, in those situations where there's a little bit of like personal preference, those are the times where you need to sometimes just be a little bit less trigger happy, I would say.
there's so many topics today before I get to, but and a lot of them have to do with some sales that have happened in the last few months. And we're going to talk about how 2025 finished for you, finished for me. Like I said, I hope, I know always in the second hour here, we get people to come up, usually in the last 15 minutes, going, yeah, I want to talk. Like I said, we're going to, love having an open discussion. Of course, everybody heard the news. Mike Seiger sold dragonfly.com, and that was sold through Hilco. We didn't get a real price on there, although Andrew Miller has his random Sunday thoughts, and he was saying that he did some seven-figure transactions. So people try to relate it to that. I
Mm.
I have some ideas on what I think it sold for. When we saw Meta Watch sell for 289,000, guy was complaining online about a $50,000 commission. So some of these sales, and then I saw Snagged. Of course, you're friends with the guys over there. Did 467 deals in 2025, and they had like 24 million in sales, and a couple, I think, seven figure. But in pickle.com, so I'm going through a bunch of pickle.com. I sold for 1.2 million, and I was listening to a replay of one of Ish's rooms, and people were commenting how they didn't think that was a cool brand for. I guess it's being used for some tech company now, but one, it's easy to pickle. People, it's passes the radio test, easy to spell. Somebody picked it up for 1.2 million. I think it's good for nearly any type of business because if you're just looking for names to remember, but that gives you an idea. If pickle's worth 1.2 million, all right, well, what's Dragonfly worth? And what do you think of that Meta Watch sale for 290? Sounds to me like Meta's coming up with a watch, like Apple Watch, Meta Watch. But
Mm.
Josh, what were some of the big transactions that caught your eye, really in the last half of 2025?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of them, like the ones that are public and that we can talk about, we probably talked about them. I mean, I think in regards to Dragonfly, we know that Mike wouldn't sell that name for less than seven figures. So I don't think there's really any kind of speculation there in terms of what it sold for. I would probably say it's, if you want to be like more specific, it's probably something like 2 to 5, I would say. But even that is a pretty wide range. Um, he came on the show and talked about that name, and we kind of had like a little discussion about what was his best name, like whether it was like Dragonfly, Pyramid, or Brew, I think. And I think a lot of people said Pyramid. But I said Dragonfly, and Mike's favorite was Dragonfly as well. Just and it's purely based on data. There's just so many big buyers for it, so super happy for him. Yeah, I did a deal with Snagged at the end of the year as well. It was a .org, and it's on a payment plan, but it was a six figure deal. Um, so yeah, those guys, Rob and Brian, they are very, very, very good at what they do on the brokerage side. They have great relationships with people outside of the domain space. You know, those of you that don't know Rob, he was one of the founders of Row.co. So he's come into the domain industry after having like a lot of success outside of it. Um, and yeah, they do really well, and I'm not surprised that they did that many deals and they've done that much transaction volume, to be honest. So I mean, a lot of my friends who have better names, I feel like almost all of them did a deal with him last year. So he's certainly bringing the buyers, and we're very lucky to have him in the industry, in my opinion. So and I would say he's a friend of mine too. Um, and then yeah, Andrew Miller, just keep doing what he's doing. He's sold so many big names as well. Yeah, I can't, unless you bring one up specifically. I don't want to say anything just in case it's something that I'm not supposed to say publicly. So I just want to be careful.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to catch you to do. I'm tricky. Hey, no, so yeah, I was thinking, Dragonfly, no, Mike bought. I was only interested in really what he bought it for from Rosner because he said he bought it in 2017 after the company went out of business.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that there was like some trading involved in that. I think they co-owned a bunch of names, and what ultimately ended up happening was, I think Drew ended up taking like full ownership of Murphy.com and maybe like some money, and Mike ended up taking Dragonfly.com, and yeah, it was it was basically they were basically splitting up and wanted to own each asset in full. So they kind of just decided which ones they wanted, and I think they came to an agreement.
Yeah, there's there's been some drama since we did our last show. Last 2 months we were off, but when I say some drama, speaking of Lady Rocket was talking about. I'm gonna jump all over the place. You know how I do, but she's talking about UD, and yeah, there was that post I guess a month ago now, or uh, some other. I forget the gentleman's name, but he's in the industry too. Operates a registry, and he was mad because he was sending some names over. This is how I took it, and maybe my interpretation's wrong or what. But he was doing some of that, using their special where you can register names for $5 or transfer them in, and then he realized you had to either use something. He then where if you don't stick around for a year, then you're charged. Or what was? Oh no, that they didn't disclose to him that part of their operations was in wherever Jumanji. I don't know. They have an office somewhere that's not in the U.S. and that's like that bothered him. But most of the people, including you, Josh, I know you decided like,
I
listen.
mean, dude's just grasping at straws when because he's upset because he got caught doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and what he was trying to do was basically, uh, I don't know, was it transfer more names over? But I'd like to,
I'm pretty sure he was. I think someone said to me that he was like he created a bunch of accounts and abused their transfer promo, right?
yeah, that sounds like it. I was trying to think. There wasn't, we'll get to some things in 2025. I'd love to hear what people acquired in 2025 that they're proud of. I'm trying to think of myself. I didn't get much that was worthwhile, I don't think, but I was seeing that Elliot talked about he picked up, this is Elliot Silver on his blog, said he picked up Chickadee. I think I don't know, greenmountains.com. I want to ask you about domains like that, greenmountains.com and flashpoints.com. With that S on the end, boy, it sure makes a difference, doesn't it? I mean, with regards to brands. And then
Yeah.
you do have to compete with the
I just
singular.
want
Yeah.
I just want to say something on the point that you brought up before with the unstoppable and thing. I don't know anything about it. I just saw what was transpiring on X. So
Yeah.
just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and we're going to be jumping all over because you were doing some stuff on X that's really interesting. That's like making money on here. People wonder how you do it, and you said, obviously just staying in the domain space. Our niche is pretty small, and if you do that, you're probably not going to be able to monetize on X. But like I said, I got so many topics. But let's get back to and even that sports betting topic you said, why don't you quit everybody? But about some of the acquisitions being picked up. I'll get to, I guess, Rick Schwartz picked up a few things, and I'll just tell you, he picked up The Globe, AI Toolbox. These are .coms. Okay names, but it makes you realize, and if you don't put Rick up on a pedestal, sometimes I do, and I try to, move him around a little bit. Rick will do it himself anyway. But anyway, it shows you. This made me realize, Rick's out there picking up names that are just like everybody else. So he picked up the Globe and 4Art, the number 4 ART, but mostly like Juanita.ai, Ernesto.ai. So you can see he likes names in the .ai specifically. It looked like more women names. But he picked up Dare.tv. I wanted to ask you, Josh, is there still anything with the .tv extension for investors? Is there anything? Are you interested in picking up .tv names, even if they make sense on both sides of the dot?
Yeah, I mean the short answer is no. But I know, I mean, like if someone like came up to me and was like, "Hey, I've got great .tv standard renewal that you can have for $500 or something like that," I would probably just say, "Okay, I'll take it." But I'm not looking out. I'm not looking for .tv names now.
Yeah, and I mentioned Rick was getting some .ais with names in front of them. So we know you'll pick up .com. And well, what were some of your acquisitions of 2025 that you remember that you know?
Sheesh.
I know you
What
picked
a
up a lot of stuff, but
question.
yeah, but the good stuff.
I mean, I picked up a lot of stuff. Yeah. Picked up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's a weird question
Uh,
to ask you because I know you did pick up, and plus you think everything you have is pretty good. So, but anyway, what about those names like solutions, or you were saying, the alpha that you give people like this year, we're going to talk about Q is the new X, but also you love finance, financial, financially. I'm just kidding. I know you didn't like
yeah.
financially, but still.
Yeah. I mean, I think I bought maybe like 10,000 names last year. I probably bought, I don't know, 200 like very good names. Name, you know, names that people would like. I mean, I think this time last year, literally January of last year, I bought agentics.com. So, you know, um, I bought that for less than what agentics.ai sold for about 6 or 7 months later. So, um, yeah, I mean, I bought a lot of good names. I also just bought like a lot of like mid tier like type of names that and a lot of .orgs. I bought a lot of .orgs, abstract.org, links.org. Um, Pretty bullish on good .org names. So and you want to look in industries that I've talked about this before, that like to spend a lot of money on domains. And that's at the moment that's AI, that's gambling, that's health, um, and crypto. Those are the four big ones. So I look for opportunities in those areas, or at least names that I feel like they would appeal to those areas.
When you people talk about picking up great names by going directly to someone who normally isn't selling it. So, like you didn't abstract.org, you go and you see, hey, it's not in use. You reach out. Seems like a lot of work to me, and I'm like, I'm a, you know, I'm like a weird domain investor. I lean on most of the stuff I picked up more than 15 years ago, and I still look around, but I want it to be easy, meaning like, hey, I want to see it on an expired list. Mostly I prefer drop catch because I'm just unhappy with GoDaddy. I got to tell them too, $115 stock, man. I tell you, I told my wife today, I hope I don't get mad next week at the ICA because I know Paul's not there anymore, but there's new people. And I just get mad. I don't care. I know, but no one's responsible. Well, who is? If Amon was there, the fucking CEO, I would tell him from 215 to 115, that stock, let me tell you, it should have been 400 by now from that IPO in 2015. Excuse me. And not only that, if you're having such a problem, if the stock's dropping that much from 215 when it got to 160, you should have been cutting workforce like fucking step kids. I don't know. Get them out of your life somehow. I don't know what to say. But I'm so upset with GoDaddy. And so I don't even like to look at their expired auctions. But anyway, so my point was I like picking up stuff in the aftermarket the easy way. Do you actually go that distance and reach out to companies that you say, hey, or individuals, doesn't look like you're using that name, let's enter some, I'm going to make you an offer. And do you pick up very many names that way, Josh, by buying really just from an end user, not another investor, but really somebody who might just have one or two names of a company that they used to use but they don't anymore?
Yeah, those are always my best my best acquisitions. They're hard to do, but yeah, I mean, I would say on average maybe get a handful of those each year, maybe more. Um, but yeah, those are kind of like the dream ones. Those are the names that you want to get if you can, because typically they're higher quality names that you can potentially get a good deal on, and also have some pent up demand. So yeah.
So you're willing to go the extra distance on a about that MetaWatch.com. I guess was that worth 290 grand? I mean, if they're doing a watch and they're Meta, that's what they. But um, and what do you think about? You think that's worth 290? And also, um, What do you think about the guy complaining about the 50K commission? He knew about it going in, but he still wanted to. It was a complaint about not receiving that good of a service for 50 grand. It's like, hey, I understand I got to pay a big commission, but they don't even return my calls, and the communication is just crap. So, it's almost like you don't want to complain about $1,000 a night room, but then you realize, listen, I do want the bed to be made, or I want it to be clean. So, what do you think about that MetaWatch and the complaint about the commission?
You know, I mean, he's complaining about the commission not because of the commission. My understanding is that he was complaining because of the communication during and after the sale. Is that right?
Yeah, so I side with him on that, meaning, yeah, if he was saying, listen, I know I got to pay, but I do expect some service for your fee. You're getting
Right.
paid. So, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's how I mean I think that they charge the commission is the commission, and you as a seller you should know the commission going into it, and if it sells you should know what the commission should be. Having said that, I think that that comes with an expectation of service, and if he wasn't getting that service, then he may have a right to be upset, but that's only for him and after Nick to know, I guess, all the details on that. We don't know like what he did or didn't do, or what they did or didn't do, and um, yeah, hard for me to
Yeah,
make a
and I
comment
think
really.
there needs to be a cap on commission. The reason I say that is I know brokers would hate to hear it, but I don't care. I mean, there used to be services where, like, say, we do some collection work for people. I say run an agency, and you make 30%. And then we tried something where, how about if you just pay a flat $100, whether we collect $1,000 for you, or say 500 bucks, or we collect 50,000 for you. And I think that's where there's always been the age old debates of, are commissions too high? And some people think, well, it's worth it if you don't, as long as you know going in, and someone says, dude, I'm going to charge you 50%. If you really like the guy and the guy can get you a high price, but I think there is a place for flat fee commissions, and even if it's on a tiered thing where if the sale is less than 10,000, the flat fee's $500, and then if it's between 10,000 and 50,000, you're going to pay 1,000 or 2,000 commission. But yeah, it's a lot for But of course, the brokers, in real estate, you sell a house for a couple million, and you're not going to make 20%. You're going to make much less than 10%, sometimes less than 5. I mean, obviously, sometimes you're making 3, 2, 1%, and then you really try to work hard so that buyer, if he's an investor, not just a one-time home, that they're going to do business with you. But 20, 30, 40%, so, and 20, 30, so much. All right, well, I see Renee came on stage. I've never talked with Renee before. Welcome, nice to have you. Open discussion here. Did you have a comment or question for me or Josh? Yeah, you're on mute. How smooth can I be? And this happens a lot. All the people that are here in the crowd, they know me. They know Todd's so smooth. He throws it right to the person. It's like I throwing a ball to him, and the person just stands there and hits him in the chest. Renee, are you there? Somebody else wants up here. I love talking when I'm doing other things. All right, so we got Alex coming up. No, nothing. Maybe it's Alex. There's so many people that go by true domains. What the fuck's going on? Yeah. The F word,
Todd.
probably say it today. Oh, I see Lady Rocket wants to say something. We're going to go ahead and let Lady Rocket say something again. Be on mute. Lady Rocket, it's like a good touch.
Make it stop. Make it stop.
Put her on mute. Put people on mute fast. I'll do it. Oh, there we go.
I
Thank you.
I did it.
Fuck. I mean, you guys, we're trying to do a show here. We broadcast in like 100 countries. People hear this stuff and they fucking immediately go away. Okay, so where's Alex? He left. Renee, we're going to give you another chance. This is fun. Renee, what's going on? Just knew that was going to happen. All right, Alex, you're on your way back up here. Let Alex say hi, and then we're going to get back to some of our topics. But I'm sure Alex has something on point, and he can't wait to ask.
What's going on?
Nice talking to you. What's up, guy?
Hey, what's going on, Todd? How are you, man?
Fucking smooth as silk.
Todd,
Everything's good. What's
hey,
up?
Josh, what's going on, guys?
What's up?
Well,
What's up?
first of all, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Um, Todd, it's been a second, man, so I was worried for you. You know, I was worried sick about you, man. Um, but I'm glad to see that you're back on stage, and glad to see that you're all right. This is amazing, and I'm glad to be here with you guys on this amazing journey. Um, so I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. Want to keep things on track. Um, but if anything, I think we are seeing a lot of different domains come out this year. I think we're going to see a trend towards more premium names, and um, I would say I've only been in this journey for I'd say maybe 2 or 3 years, but that is definitely my goal to get more premium names, and I would say just really searching that journey. Um, as far as like things like pickle.com, I see where people kind of um, go sway one way or another. But to your point, it's like it's a brandable. You kind of when you think of something generic and that's something that it's easy to remember and a one word that people can go towards, you could see something like pickle. Now, it's funny though because depending on who you ask, pickles are kind of like sour in taste and it can kind of like leave a bad taste in your mouth, But it's still just generic enough where you'd be like, okay, I could see that being something, you know. And so that's where I lay on that. And then as far as pickups for last year, I think for me personally, it was actually a test because so many things could have went right or so many things could have went wrong. But I actually did pick up armpits.com, and I'm proud of that personally, even though it may smell bad. But if anything, I'm proud of that personally because it's my first one word name, and I feel like I've kind of like not necessarily graduated from the domain space, but I feel as though it has potential, or if it finds the right end user, it really does have some potential in that. So, um, but as far as what Lady Rocket was talking about, I'm gonna have to talk to her like off stage about things like that. But Todd, awesome again to see you. Um, I'm excited for this year, man. I think Josh, to your point, we're going to see a lot more when it comes to the crypto space, tech, healthcare. Real estate is always a good play. But yeah, happy to be here, guys.
Very cool. Yeah, happy New Year to you too, man.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hey, I know, Alex. Of course, we're going to tear shit up this year. Okay, come on. We got some big things going on here. And Josh, he's going to be sharing things about DNX all year long. He's got big things happening. I mean, I don't even know what's public, but so many things going on there. We're building companies in this space. No one's going anywhere. I was telling Josh the other day, I feel super lucky because the guys I do business with and partner with in here, Josh included Josh, and I was telling him Jeff Newman and Chad Fokening. I feel like, man, how much smarter can I be? I mean, these guys are fucking the best and sort of cool. They don't wear the coolest clothes, but anyway, no, I mean, so I'm excited about the companies that we're building, and then what's that word they use when there's like you have that. Um, People always say we have it's like when you two companies they work together well, they have a Alex, you know the word. Josh, you do. It's like when there's a it's like a
Good
dynamic
synergy.
synergy. Yeah, okay, synergy. Anyway, yeah, so a lot of us are building stuff, and there's a lot of ways we can build not only separately but then work uh, work together and help each other build our companies, especially we're all in the domain space. But yeah, I can't wait to we're launching domain fund at ICA, so I'm giving first crack at, and when I say launch, I'm going to be passing out overviews so people really understand. Now tell me about it. Here it is. It's written down for you specifically. And of course, some of my friends are pros. That's why I was saying I'm going to tackle Josh here to say, hey, look, so, Chad and I are, founded this fund. Here's how we're valuing the names. And that's the main thing. I know there's demand for domain names. I know there's interest in pooling resources. But still, it's the valuation that's always an issue. And speaking of that, there was a pretty good Unstoppable. Brady did, I think, a great show with it wasn't Michael, it must have been David, one of the Costello brothers, okay? And David was saying, hey, okay, so these valuations suck. All of them do, specifically GoDaddy. But he said some things. He said, we have some single word names that we are putting at domainnames.com, and that's GoDaddy's new ultra premium, right? I say ultra premium. I know David's here. Cestiel's thinking, hey, don't I own that name? Ultra Premium Domains. Okay, Ultra Premium Marketplace. And he said, even though GoDaddy wanted him to sign, this agreement that really didn't trap him in, but it was a pretty big commission. He didn't like all the terms, but this is David Costello saying it, that he really believed GoDaddy's reputation and their network and really their pull to get big people feeling comfortable doing big transactions with them is the reason why he's like, so I wanted to put some of our names at domainnames.com, and he believes doing that and working closely with them, he's getting their ear on adjusting their valuations, because apparently it only goes up over 25,000. It says this name's worth over 25,000. But Josh, when it comes to how does the GoDaddy valuation, does it hurt us as domain investors? Does it help us? Does it matter? Does it need to be adjusted? What are your thoughts on the valuation, but specifically GoDaddy's valuations?
Yeah, so I think that is it David or Mike? I think David had a pretty specific example about how, according to one of his potential buyers, it affected his deal, and he ended up losing a decent sized deal because of it. My personal experience is that I don't really care that much, to be honest. For the most part, I think that people that are willing to spend a lot of money on a domain name are not are aware that automated appraisal tools are not necessarily going to be a fundamental part of their decision making process. However, I do think that there is probably some negative impact from a domain investing standpoint. I think there used to be some positive impact as well, just in a way to sort and identify names. But from an end user perspective, yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't really bother me that much. But I don't neglect the fact that it probably does hinder some deals, and it may have hindered some of my deals in the past, but not a material amount where it's a big focus for me. If it's a focus for someone else, like David, that's great. I'm kind of happy about that, because I do think it would be a net positive if they were to get rid of those valuations completely. I think is probably the best solution. Fixing them is probably not a good solution. Just getting rid of them completely is probably the way forward.
Well, I can't wait to hear from Bruce. Bruce, don't say anything just yet. Bruce is on the stage. He's Steak Man. He's marketing his new domain Steak Man. So be sure and follow Bruce, right? The Steak Man. But I wanted to say, I think on the low end, when you're selling some names, especially some places around the world where domain investors don't mind selling names in the 3 and 4 figures, it's nice to say, hey, look, GoDaddy has a valuation, even if it's too low, it's a little lower than they want to sell the name for. It's nice to show, look, it's been appraised at least by this big company and has a value. Because if we did get rid of the values altogether, then it doesn't help those folks around the world. Then also I bring up Bruce because of outbounding, because Bruce might say, hey, look, so this name, I'm trying to sell it to you for $1,200. It shows a valuation of 600 or 800, but still, the valuations are just things you overcome. it's just an objection you overcome, especially on the high end. There's been big sales, and there's probably been somebody that brings it up even to Drew or to Miller, and say, hey, but this says it's only worth 18,000, and you're trying to charge me 400,000. It's just an objection you have to overcome. But I think on the 3, 4, and maybe even low 5 figure sales, sometimes the valuation, just knowing that a company is valuing it more than nothing, more than reg fee, means a lot. Bruce, it's wonderful to have you. What's your thoughts on that, and any other thoughts that you have? Brewster Rooster, you're off of mute, but I can't hear you. Can you hear him, Josh?
No, you might have to reconnect.
He might have to reconnect in life with all of us. Yeah, no, I like it. Bruce checks on me all the time to say, hey, the fuck are you doing? And I say, don't cuss at me. And he's like, you're boss. I said, Bruce is hard to handle. Here he comes again. It's like he comes
Can
in
you hear me
another.
now?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, sir.
What's up, Bruce?
I was saying Happy New Year to both everybody out here, and especially Todd. Great to hear you back. It's been a while, and I'm glad everything's okay. And missed you, buddy. Glad you're back. Happy New Year, my friend. Josh, you too. And I'm not broadcasting Steak Man to sell it. I'm building it out. And I just had a great meeting 2 days ago with Weber and up here in Toronto, and trying to get them to sponsor me. So I'm going to be traveling all over to do steak videos and come out with my spice line and change it up a little bit for 2026. But what I wanted to say first of all to Alex, pickles are not sour. There's so many different types of pickles you can get. There's kosher, there's dill, there's sweet, there's but there's an incredible amount of pickles. So I love that name. Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. I'm not gonna lie. I like the name. I personally, and maybe it's because I'm starting from this level, but I'm like, I I see how that name is beneficial to any brand, and so that's why I like the name. So
awesome. So Todd, you were mentioning about outbounding. What was your question again?
About when you're outbounding and someone, basically, how do you use GoDaddy appraisals to assist you, if ever, when you're
I
outbounding?
don't.
Okay.
I
Does
don't.
anybody ever bring it up to you that they
No, no, no one. No,
not
the
likely,
people
huh?
that no, they never have. I think they're just too lazy to even go daddy and even look at it. And I deal a lot with lawyers and real estate agents, and neither one of them are going to take the time to go there and look at it. Neither one.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Quickly about pickle too. I want to follow up with you guys. Yeah, pickles are all different. And one, when people were saying pickle has a bad connotation, what kind of, what are guys thinking? Like, they're just stupid. They like, it's like a dildo. It's a pickle. First of all, pickleball makes, I don't even know why they call it pickleball. Josh, why is it called pickleball?
I don't know.
Get you
It's
in a
dumb.
pickle, when they get
Yeah.
you in, somebody gets you in a pickle, that's like in a
In a
compromising
pinch.
position, or I don't know, awkward position, I guess. But anyway, pickle, yeah, it makes sense to me because, like I said, it's almost like an open vessel, as they say in this goofy business we're in. Oh, Josh, before you got into the room, I was saying that some people just need to quit domain investing. Normally we always talk about how to adjust, and they need to do this or slow down, take classes, don't go crazy. But really, how do you feel about that? That some people, this isn't for everyone, but I can't say as us as ones passing on advice and information. And I love to think, when people say this is not financial advice, this is domain investing advice. Okay, this is not investing. This is domain investing advice. What do you think? Do you think some people, they're just not cut out for this? You got to spend a certain amount of time, and you almost need to have a little bit of a feel for it. But tell me I'm right. It's not for everyone, right?
Gosh, that's a good question. You know, I think that's a little bit of a deeper conversation, to be honest. So when you say it's not for everyone, I think that anyone can do it. To be honest, if they want to, I think that the formula is not particularly crazy. But it's like saying, you know, if you go and work in finance, you know, and you're not very good at it, should you just walk away from it? Possibly, if you're not willing to like, take steps to get better. I think part of the issue is that most people are stubborn. They think they know better than everyone else. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to me, and they're just going to keep doing the same, things over and over that don't work, until they don't have any more money. Um, and that's just the reality of just about any industry, and domains are no different.
Well, I appreciate that answer. I want to get to Eric, but I mean, now you've made me realize, okay, two things. If if I would never say to somebody, running isn't for you or exercise, you may not be, the winner even in your age class, but it certainly can benefit you. Now, conversely, it's almost like saying, uh, poker, professional, being a poker, trying to make money as a in the poker business. I would tell some people, if you don't have the temperament, or you don't really have the patience or whatever it takes, because I look forward to the poker tournament at the ICA, but am I, I need good cards. I need not drunks sitting around me, and I need you know to be in a good mood, and then it sometimes
Yeah, I
works
mean,
out for
like
me.
the physical, this isn't like domains has no physical barriers to entry, right? And I think that's the big difference. It's like, if you want, like, I can't go out and be an Olympic runner. Um, I just can't. Even if I dedicated my entire life to it, I'm, too old. Uh, don't have the right body type. It's not going to happen. Um, but domains don't have that restriction, so
Right. It's
yeah,
more
kind of view it a little
it's
differently.
intellect, but I will say, not everybody can be a brain surgeon. But then, I tell people too, when I was, when I was a broker, stockbroker every day, if you sat with me, I was telling, if you sat with me when I was working, every day for a month, you're going to know a lot. And with the way the markets change too, no one wants to really know. Of course, history is good, except we need to know what those equities, those stocks are at today. What's going on in the news today, so you can get up to speed fast. And I said to somebody, if you were an assistant, or what do they call those, an apprentice to a brain surgeon, and you had no medical school, but you were just with brain surgeons every day for 3 months, 6 months, you're gonna, if you're slick, you're gonna pick up some things. I guess my point is, it's like sometimes just being right in the mix there. So
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
feel
like the
you.
brain surgeon thing is like, if you, I don't particularly like studying like anatomy and all that kind of, or, whatever you might need to be a brain surgeon, right? So I'm not gonna go into that, right? And if you don't like, studying naming conventions and branding trends, and just, if you don't have just like a general interest in entrepreneurship and business and data analysis, then yeah, probably shouldn't continue in domain investing. But those things, you can do them if you want to.
Well, I'd love to. And when I say pick your brain, I'd love to give you a lobotomy. That sounds even dirty, but okay. Anyway,
It
Arif,
does.
Arif, what do you have to say?
Hey,
I know it's something. What's up?
first I want to say Happy New Year's to you guys. But yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about, man. I performed brain surgery on some random person while doing a half marathon just last week. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You're a talented guy.
No, actually, I completely destroyed my ankle 2 weeks ago, and I'm still on the couch. Uh, but just to say, I kind of agree, Todd. I mean, look, there are elements to domain investing that you can learn, right? If you're coachable, if you listen to like the Sherpas and you come to these rooms and listen to you and Josh and other people who speak, like you can learn a lot. But I think there's also an element to it that is more, I guess, like the gut check sort of thing, where it's like you've developed that over the course of your life. And some people, I think, are more prone to being successful than others at finding domains that work or not. Now, doesn't mean that somebody can come in with a lot of money and just buy a couple of very short one words and flip them and go from there. That's certainly possible. But I think for the most people, the path is you come in, you buy you start in at closeouts or whatever it is, and you do the grind, and that's a little bit more difficult to really have a good enough selection to be, successful overall, right? It's easy to make a sale. Well, not necessarily easy to make a sale or two here or there, but I mean, to be profitable is very different than making a sale or two, right? And to be profitable, your name selection has to be very good, right? It can't just be good or okay or whatever it is. It's like if you want to be profitable in this industry, you have to be really good at domain selection and getting them at the right prices. And for me, I'm lucky. My entire life, I've had a very broad sort of quest for knowledge. Right, I watch the news multiple times a week. I watch documentaries. I inform myself on different things here and there, and that over the course of a lifetime will give somebody a certain advantage in going through lists and picking out domains in certain industries that you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I do think that it's not for everybody, but it's not as cut and dry as that. There are certain niches in the industry where you can be more successful without certain fields of knowledge. But I do think a general knowledge base is a really good thing to have for this industry.
Okay, we're going to be going for another hour today, and I wanted to tell everybody, it's an open discussion. Come on up. We're going to be here every Thursday. So, and I wanted to mention about the two folks that were here earlier, Renee, who didn't talk. We want new voices, Love Bruce. Okay, how much love can I have for the guy? Arif, it's top of the list. And Alex, well, we'll talk about him. But so we hear from a lot of our same friends, and thanks for being on stage, guys, because we want to keep this conversation going. But I do like the new folks coming in, Rocket Lady and Renee. We do like to hear the new voices. Josh and I always, we want to know what, especially people that are domain investors that we haven't met before, but also people from the outside looking to, get into this space. What really, questions do they have? And some of them are, have a lot of experience in other areas. So anyway, next week is the ICA meetup. Next Thursday, I was going to start the room. Hopefully, we'll see where, DNX is sponsoring the pickleball tournament. Pickleball starting probably 10 or 11, which is the time our show starts here on the East Coast. He's going to be in this time zone. And believe me, he's a lot less authority in this time zone. I'm going to tell him that as soon as I see him. He has to. Okay, so, we're going to be busy, but I do like the idea of, Arif's going to help us out. I do like the idea of broadcasting, and I will keep my phone with me. Here's what's going on at the ICA. For some of you that are ICA members that can't make it, I'll tell you, here's what's going on so far on Thursday. That really takes off Wednesday a little bit. We have a meetup Wednesday night, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This year, full on sessions, guru tables, AMAs, really pretty great agenda. Just to check it out, you still have time. Matter of fact, like I said, it's not for another week. You still have time to go to ica.vegas and you can get more information about it. But anyway, what a great industry event. But next week, we will have a DNX show. It's just Josh and I are going to be in Vegas, and he's well, Josh, tell us a little bit about, so DNX is sponsoring the pickleball. When is the pickleball? Just, this is me asking you. And what does it mean to sponsor? You have to buy us sandwiches or something? What's going on?
I think it's Thursday, and yeah, I guess just making a decent sized contribution to the costs of getting the courts and food, drink, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't put you on the spot, but I know it's a nice place we're going to. It's called, the Cuba Cup. Amar sort of organizes it. You're sponsoring it. I mean, DNX is, and it's going to be at a cool place. So even if you're somebody
Yeah.
who just wants to watch the stuff, it's going to be a cool spot to heckle, right?
Yeah, it's at a place called Chicken and Pickle. So you can buy drinks and food there, and yeah, it's a good spot.
Nice, and it is fun, for all you here. Be sure and be here next Thursday on the DNX show. You can hear, worst cases, I'll do it. I'm playing, man. I don't care. And I told Josh, yeah, they had a little check mark. Do you plan on just having fun, just watching from the sidelines, or do you plan on winning? I'm like, yeah, winning. Yeah, I'm like, winning. And But I wonder if Steve Kennedy's going to be there. How would you rate him um, as a pickleball player, Josh?
Yeah, he's a good. He's a good, like way above your average pickleballer. Good player, but he's unfortunately injured, so he's not going to be partaking in the pickleball activities this time around.
Yeah, I don't have any sympathy. When I see him, I'm going to say he's got a kid named Todd. I always liked that, but he's young. What do you mean injured? When I was like had a compound fracture, still run up a hill. When I was, especially when I was that age, 35. How old are you, Josh? 37.
I think SK is like 40 now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's one of the few that was a domainer in college. I mean, this is one of the few guys that was just fucking pro domainer, basically domain investor, full time job his whole life. So that's
Yeah,
why, but we
yeah.
gotta. He's in here sometimes. We gotta talk to Steve. He doesn't act like he doesn't like to be, talk in public, but
He
I,
doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't act like it. He
yeah, but
doesn't.
when you sit down with him at dinner, I mean, I've had a chance to sit down with him at the IC, and he's like, "Yeah, man, he'll answer anything. It's great information."
Yeah, because
I've
he wants
actually,
to know. He wants to know who's in the room, right? And we've got anonymous listeners and all kinds of stuff in here.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I've talked about that in the past about when I was doing the Zooms and whatever it is, and yeah, I'll tell you offline. He's the reason why he wants to be a bit quiet, so it's fine.
Reason why. Yeah, I want to be quiet too. We just do it because otherwise no one's doing it. And I have to, drag Josh out of bed. Hey, Josh, come on, let's do this. No, I mean, fortunately, we're getting into it a little bit. We can't wait. We're 2026. Domain investing is not going anywhere. I was mentioning the other day, we were on, this is a lot more fun than being on Name Pros and meeting some guy from Riverside who's like, "Are you bidding against me? I thought we were friends." I'm like, but I didn't fucking know you. And he was worried about, I mean, the weirdest things would happen on Name Pros 20 years. And I still wanted to come around because it's like, dude, I'm a domain investor. This is a unique business. I love it. I'm still knowing I have an opportunity to hit home runs with some of my names still. It's like waiting for that right buyer. Josh, you sold eminent.org for 17,500 recently, right? I was listening to Eminence Front and I realized I know it's eminence and not eminent, but still I was listening to it as I was thinking about the bullshit we were going to talk about today. But
Mm.
eminent.org, so that's an org name that sold 17,500. Tell us about how long you own that, if you remember, and what'd you buy that for?
Yeah. I have owned it. I'll tell you exactly. Not long. I've owned it since August of 2025, and I paid $2,000 for it. Um, yeah. So yeah, offer came in through Afternic. I was using an Afternic lander. Um, I set a floor. Broker pushed it up a little bit above the floor, and yeah, closed at 17.5, which is yeah, pretty happy with that. I mean, it's not a 10x after commission. I end up with a little less than 15K, but it's pretty close. And if I'm churning a name in 3 or 4 months like that, I don't need a 10x.
Well, that one, okay, this is a great example of. So, what would you say the wholesale is for eminent.org? Right at the 2,000 that you paid, is that about fair
I think
wholesale price?
honestly, I think honestly, if it was in an auction, it would probably have gone double that. But yeah, for me, it's a 2K, 3K
Great.
wholesale name. Yeah.
The reason I ask is because one thing that I'm going to that I saw Siger, we all say to each other stuff like, "I can't wait to see you. I want to run some things past you." I'd say that to anybody, but really with you, so Chad and I are doing this domain fund, and I'm going to share it with everybody here in 2 weeks, okay? But first, I'm going to share it with ICA members. But the key is, it's how you become part of the fund is you contribute a name. And I will say, why would someone want to be part of a domain fund? Well, it's almost like a domain pool. And I know Jason.com owns Domain Pool. Probably end up working with him on some things. But why would you want to be part of a fund? Well, the main reason is it's you want to if you have a name that you're willing to contribute and give up 50% ownership to the fund, and you keep 50% ownership of it, and of course, now you also have so you get wholesale for 50% of it, and then we'll hopefully sell it for retail. And then, of course, you get 50% retail. But the point is, then you also get a piece of the retail sales of all the other names in the fund. So what you're doing is really just pooling your names with others, but it really comes down to that valuation, which we all talk about. So in the eminent.org, for example, say Josh still owned it, and Josh said, um, yeah, I want to participate in the domain fund, and how does it work? And then I say, okay, well, the wholesale value for we'll say the eminent.org wholesale value is $3,000, and if Josh would agree to that, then what we would do is say, okay, for 50% of it is 1,500. 50% of the wholesale value is 1,500. We give you 1,500 shares in the fund. Each share is worth $1, and then now you own 1,500 shares of the fund and 50% of eminent.org still. So now if the name sold, like you said, for 17.5, and say it netted 1,500 or 15,000, you're going to get 7,500, and the other 7,500 is going to be divided up amongst the the fund owners pro rata. If somebody has a lot more shares because they've contributed either higher value names that had higher wholesale values, or multiple names. But the point is, it's the whole key to making a fund like this successful is the wholesale value, coming up with
Yeah.
a reasonable wholesale value that the domain owner says, I will accept shares in the fund for 50% of it, because I still want to get retail for half of
Hey,
it.
Todd.
Yeah, go ahead.
Todd, I love the idea. I guess my immediate question is, what about what if people in the fund are not happy with the wholesale value that you're giving someone else as they come into the fund? So let's say that I already have like 10 names in the fund, and 50% of those names are go into the pool for the fund basically, and then someone else comes in with a name, and then but I feel like you've given them too many shares at the wholesale value of their names. Like, what can I do about that? Or do I just have to trust you that you're giving like the perfect wholesale value?
It the real answer is, yeah, it's sort of like the fund managers. If you think they're buying the stock too high, then you're just not happy with them. Now we are going to have a um, a way for the fund owners to, if you own a lot of shares of the fund, and we're now purchasing some new, making some offers on some new domains to add to the fund, to give you some voting rights. So that's what
Right.
Chad's working on right now, to make sure that to answer that exact question, because my answer to it was F them. I mean, basically this, the fund managers are, because it's not that you don't want people to have a say in it. And that's why um, I'm, going to be reaching out to, there's a couple of us, and then some attorneys will fucking make sure everything is square with regards to that. But how that is, I tell them what to do. But with regards to how are we valuing these? Because if, say, when I offer somebody $2,000, say I say, okay, this name is worth, um, $5,000 wholesale, and so that means I would offer you 2,500, and the person's like, well, I believe it's worth closer to 10,000 wholesale. Well, that's when, not only, I'm not going to, buck
No, I
stops
mean,
with
listen,
me.
listen. I
Yeah.
let me be clear. I believe, for lack of a better term, FM is the correct way to go about it. Um, but as someone, who would consider putting names in if you're going to consider putting your names in a fund, you need to then have, you know 100% confidence in the fund manager, and if you don't, then you can't do it. But I agree with you that that from a fund manager perspective, giving like voting rights and all that, and like answering to your shareholders, mm, I would probably, I would. personally, I would probably just not bother with that.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of room for disappointment and whatever it is. I don't know. Like I wish you luck with it, and even something like that. If it's a group of people that I know, I might even participate for the fun of it, right? But I think a lot of things that Josh says or has said is concerning, right? I mean, the irony is, I think probably the only person in the industry that I would probably do something like that or buy into a fund that's managed by is actually probably ironically Josh, because he's a very, very good and successful investor, but also more importantly is his experience with DNWE gives him knowledge about real true wholesale pricing that the vast majority of us just don't have at that scale.
Well, let me say, for one, there's an answer to all of it, and that is, then if you're somebody who wants, then you wait around until there's 100 names in the fund, and of course, I'm transparent to where I'll say, here's where all these were valued at and how they came into the fund. So then I would say, just wait the fuck around until you're going to be buying in at a later date. So then you can see, oh, I see you picked up this name for $4,000 wholesale. You picked up this name for $500 wholesale. You picked up this name. I still like the idea of picking up some names. Chad really does, is saying picking up names off the drop. So what I'm saying is, if someone's like, listen, I'm concerned that my shares will be diluted later with, you're right. Listen, I could go and say to my own portfolio, okay, I'm going to give myself triple what I would give you for your name wholesale and give myself shares, because I'm certainly going to participate. Matter of fact, some of my names and some of Chad's names we're going to show. What I would recommend too, listen, I have answers for all this stuff. What I wanted to get at here, and I'll go into it really in a couple weeks. What I wanted to get at here was about when I'm earmarking, if we pick up a name that's valued at $3,000 wholesale, 8 times that these are the numbers I'm working with. 8 times that is what I'm thinking of retailing it for on Afternic, on all these, and then having a floor of about 5 times that. So I bring it up because I liked what Josh did with eminent.org. It really falls in line with, if I valued that at 3,000, I'm just getting 3,000 wholesale. He paid to 3,000, then price it around 24,000, 25,000, but no, I got a floor at about 15,000. And so I'm right. It really, and not all names are the same. And sometimes we're thinking, okay, we have, I mean, there's some names that we are looking at 40,000. Listen, we already got, plenty of folks in the business that are like, hey, as long as there's a reasonable wholesale value, I don't mind, I'll keep 50% of it at retail. And then plus I get a ride along with a bunch of other names, because we all know, listen, there's great single word names that have never sold in 25 years. So names are not equal. And it's just weird that sometimes you have a name that's $1 million name, but yet fucking, why has nobody stepped up to the plate for 25 years? But we always think that these, anyway, especially the big names, eventually just keep staying patient. You're right. You got to stay patient, but there's just some great names that have never, ever sold. They've almost traded amongst domainers, have never sold to an end user. So the point is, it's really I love it because I think it's a great opportunity for someone to say, give me a reasonable wholesale value. I don't want to sell it at wholesale. Matter of fact, I really don't even want to sell 50% of it at wholesale. But the reason why it's worth it to do that, if you make it reasonable, is I'm going to keep 50% of it at ownership, and we're going to sell it at the retail point. But then I also am going to ride along with all these other names that when they sell at retail, I get my pro rata percentage of how much I own of the fund. And then we could let also the fund grow. And if you're, if it's early on, we got to talk about some other things today. This is because I could go on. I wanted to really share it with some folks that know about it.
Where this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Where this is a good thing is, like in theory on paper, when you're, for domains, you can get a really good domain, pay a little bit up for it, right? oneword.com, and I guess now we're going to call it 5 figures, whatever it is. And, you get lucky and sell it. Great, right? That's probably your smartest bet long term. However, if you come in with a budget of $20,000, right? And you spend it on one domain, again, it's domains are all about probabilities, which on the larger end, when you have a lot of volume, well, it's a law of averages, right?
We,
But
we have no,
on the shorter
there's
run,
for one, Arif,
but,
I don't want to get into this. There's no budget. If somebody says I have the single word name and I'll
but the,
accept the wholesale value at 30,000, they'll get
let me get
shares. Yeah,
But
go
let me get
ahead.
to my point. But yeah, let me get my point is that but if you have that one domain, you might be stuck with it for 10 years and it's still a good domain and it's still a good value, whatever it is.
Okay.
But however, what you're doing, if you have a lot, multiple domains like that, it allows somebody to come in with that same $20,000 budget or whatever, whatever the budget is, 5,000, whatever it is, come in with one domain, but then you share that thing. And then all of a sudden you're not relying on luck. If you have like 100 similar domains in that fund, well, now all of a sudden it's law of averages. Your chances are pretty
I don't
high
mean to
that
cut
one
you
or
off,
two
but
will
you're right.
sell by
And
the end
plus,
of the
you
year.
get some cash flow from the sell of other names, but also there is an exit strategy here too. If names don't sell with the time they're accepted into the fund, they don't sell in 5 years. How do you get rid of them? And there's even buyback options for if the person wants to repurchase their name, it wasn't sold. And then there's also if somebody doesn't have a name that makes it that we think is worthy of being in the fund, or we just don't agree on a wholesale price, there's going to be ways for people to participate then. But no, listen, I got to uh, working certain things out and then having to, you know, it's funny, but I mean, you guys bring up the good stuff, but I feel like, listen, Chad is the hardest guy of all. He's constantly, well, this, and I've thought of this, and I do this, and but still, it's going to be demand, and I know what it's going to be. I'm telling you, here's how it's going to. I know you have to get stuff at. It's sort of like domain investing. You got to buy good names at a good price, and then you have to have a reasonable ask price, a reasonable retail, a sensible floor. You got to sell some names. The portfolio's got to be managed, but just focus, just having one or two, um, pooling it makes sense if they're all, if you're getting just a bunch of great stuff so then, would only accept things that are at a good
Yeah.
price.
Your ultimate challenge will be that fact that most people, especially new people coming into the industry, are not reasonable with what they think is, the wholesale value and
You
retail
just tell them
value.
get lost. I mean, we're not even close. So we're not
Yeah.
close, and we're not. And the thing is, you're doing it so because us savvy domain investors know even a great name priced well. Sometimes I could list some of my names for $2,000, and of course, now with DNX, they probably would sell pretty quick. But my point is, four letter that I'm asking five figures, mid five figures for, pronounceable. Well, I lower the price down to 8,000. It still takes time for them to sell. The point is, you want activity, and then a lot of us have a lot of names, so you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do it with this one, but you know what? I will do it with this one, and plus, I want to ride along, like you said, Eric, too. Some of it's not only it can be fun, but it's got to be a money maker. Yeah, I want to have fun with my friends, but this is a fucking money maker. Okay, we're gonna make some money
I
here.
just have one final question for you on that is that when you're planning this out in your head, how many people do you think will have domains there? And on average, about how many domains each? Like how many, you think it's going to be like 50 domains or 500 domains or 5,000 domains among like 10 people or 50 people or just like what's in your
Yeah,
head,
well, you could,
just,
yeah, I would say, I do have a partner, and this is why I say you could stop at any time. You could really just go, okay, I want to do it real limited, but I'm looking at a portfolio of, eh, minimum would be a couple hundred, maximum would probably be 1,000. Then we would close that fund and start another one. But basically, it's just a pool of domain names, and you want to have good value. But yeah, so I would close it off probably. Don't want to have more than between 500 and 1,000 names. But um, some names are just so much different than others because some are, like I said, uh, Chad's got some great three letter, some great words, some great stuff that, I want to be part of the fund. He does too. But the point is, they're like, you know, names that are easily six figures, some seven figure names. So still, well, why would he want to do that? Because one, I'm convincing him to. I hope he's not listening to this from. He'll think I don't want to do that. Is I want him. I want some great names at great wholesale prices, and he's a savvy investor and knows. Listen, he's got over 20,000 names. But the point is that there's just some that certainly have a wholesale value of 40,000, 50,000, and the asking price would be three, four, $500,000. But even he knows, and he sells them. But even he knows there is something to write, to be part of a big domain pool. And the better name you have, of course, the more shares you would have. But I'll just leave it at this: if there's very few participants early on, I just mean very. I know there's going to be plenty of participants. I already got indications of interest from some of the guys you guys know already, and Chad's already reached out, who have hundreds of thousands of names, who have 50,000 names that are like, yeah, they know, like, yeah, I'll put some in there, and just don't rob me on the wholesale price. But everybody's got too many names, so there's the participation is going to be there. But I would say early on, um, when there's only a, a smaller number of participants, well, if something sells, within that first 6 months, that first year, well, yeah, there's less owners. You get a higher percentage of the proceeds. What I mean is the less shares that are, in the float out there, and less dilution, meaning, so yeah, early investors can possibly, benefit a little bit more than the later investors. But all right. Hey, oh, I look forward to I can't wait to share. I mean, then it's not even that. I'm going to have it up at domainfund.com. People are going to be able to go there. And the big difference than what we have there online is, I said about the fractionalization, no, tokenization, and all that stuff. No, I'm doing it. I'm doing this old school. I am certainly going to use some tools, and I have the right to monetize a domain name, meaning if we want to build out a name and we think we can generate money from it, that money is going to go to the fund, you know. But so we're going to reserve some rights, because we can't help it. There's some names that we are already generating money that I'm thinking I'd like to get that to be part of the fund. It might be generating $1,500 a month in some business, and but we still be consider selling it. So I mean, but I'm trying to keep it more old school. I'm going to let Raghu say something, then we're going to talk about briefly Doma and Domora, and just what we think is going to happen, predictions from Josh in 2026. Raghu.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome, Josh, back to the stage. I'd love to talk to you and listen to you and all that goodies you had to offer, and wish you all the best for the new year. Now, the question, Todd, I have a quick one, and I'm going to stop right there. Just two questions because I'm slow. One question is, what happened if I change my mind? How much term do I have to submit my domain and keep it with this?
It
This.
won't be your domain when you submit it. No, then we're going to transfer it to domain fund registrar, to our account, and then
Uh-huh.
it would be 5 years. So you would be. I understand.
Permanently for 5 years.
Yeah,
You
I
cannot
understand. I'm
change your
owning
mind.
50% of it still, but that
Yeah,
it's going to be,
yeah.
owned and
So
managed
it's
by
a
the.
5 years. You cannot change your mind. In other words.
Right, after 5 years. Well, what you could do is
Okay.
I may have some. If you wanted to buy it back, of course you might have to buy it back at double the wholesale price that was saying. But there's ways, if there's things I've thought of, if somebody wanted to remove their name from the fund, it'd have to be attractive for the other fund owners. I mean the other fund members. But so possible, but yeah. So I've even thought about that. But definitely at the end, after 5 years, our exit strategy, I can't wait
Yeah.
to share with,
So
and
so
then let
that
people know.
that
And
will
you can.
apply for the same reason for I can understand that is if you want to develop it for some reason or you have a legitimate reason to not to back out, so it is will not considered taking it back or any other reason. But anyways, that's fine. Now the next question is who will do the efforts to sell that domain? How do you market that domain? Or who is actually the principle of marketing or putting efforts to make that name sold? That is my next question.
I
And
don't want to
that's
turn
it.
this into the domain fund show right now, because I wanted to. I've already shared
No,
everything
but
I want to.
something
But
to
no,
think about it.
the
Something to think
managers
about.
are. But we're going to use a lot of the traditional methods, and even some brokers, because there's some names that brokers want to help sell, and that's an important thing you bring up. But that's like, if Afternic charges a commission, that's, comes out of the gross amount of the sale, because we're certainly not going to not let people buy through GoDaddy or through Afternic if they want to, or if a broker helps assist in a sale, there's fees that come out of it, and then I'll share how the fund makes money too. But I'm gonna have I already have our one sheet. I'm just going to share it at ICA. But Ragu, I know you're an IC, or no, you're not an ICA member yet. If you're an ICA member and you're not attending, well,
Yeah.
then I'm going to do like what I think on Sabo. There's going to you're still a member, and I know everybody can't attend. So then you can reach out to me after the event,
Well,
and I'll
I can
send you the
come to
one sheet.
ICA if Josh sponsor me, and I will promote him there. Someone have to sponsor me to ICA to
Yeah,
go
I
there.
looked into that.
I'm a
The tickets are
famous
so
guy.
expensive. Yeah, yeah, the tickets
Yeah.
are really expensive, and they're like, yeah, no freebies at this point. It's a pretty good deal if you become
No,
a member.
I'm putting my stake of my good-looking face. What are you talking about, freebie? I'm not looking for freebie. I'm talking about making impact of this conference. Go and find out from the name
Yeah, we
con
got
what I
30
did there.
minutes left. I got so many topics we're going to do some next week, but ask Josh questions. Why I bring that up, anybody that has some questions for Josh, now's the time. We're going to be here for 30 more minutes today. And I mean, I know people love, asking questions about domain investing. And but looking forward to 2026, Josh, what are some trends? And then touch on that Doma and Domora thing once again. Is they're really having some challenges there, and I mean both of them, because people, is it complicated, or they just think? I think it really has to do with the complication and the value. But what are some things you look forward to in 2026, and what can we expect to see as an industry that may, new things that may evolve?
Yeah. So Doma and Demora thing. Um, I don't know. I guess I saw a lot of hype about it towards the end of the year. I haven't seen much over the last like month or so, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I think that I've made my thoughts kind of pretty well known on that front. I'm not overly interested in it. I know that True Domainer is super interested in it, and he thinks it's going to change the world. Um, but I hope that it does gain some traction, because it's a good thing. It's cool to innovate in the domain space. Is great, especially when it combines Web3 in a meaningful way. I do think it kind of like opens up avenues to doing some more creative things with domains, which is great. Um, it's all cool. You've got to test things. You've got to be able to figure it. You've got to, you don't truly know what's going to happen with any type of innovation from a market dynamic until you try it. I just don't think that domains are the kind of asset that can be um, fractionalized in a way that makes an awful lot of sense, because at the end of the day, it's all about just getting these names into end user hands, and the more friction that occurs in the lead up to that process, I think the less desirable and harder it is to get it into the people's hands that want to pay the highest price, and that's all I really care about. um, Now, it doesn't mean to say that there won't be some hype and some sort of trend that may occur where a group of people decide that they're going to start buying up fractionalized domain names, and if that happens, you know I might be there for that. Might be there for it if I can make a little bit of money. Who knows? But as of right now, it's not something I'm particularly interested in. On the trends side, it's basically a follow up. It's just basically a follow up year to everything that we've kind of been talking about over the last 6 to 9 months. Um, I do think a lot of the things that I talked about on here have begun to materialize. I talked about intelligence.com domains probably a year ago, maybe even more. I talked about agent names and agents names, and we can see that those are starting to materialize. I talked about Q being the new hot letter as opposed to, X. And we can see that's beginning to materialize. And I think that there's still legs for a lot of those things. These are things that people are starting to notice now, and trends that people are starting to notice now. But they've been building now for 6 to 9 months if you've been truly paying attention. So yeah.
Great. No, gaming. The trends. I think is important. People love, and in the old days we called it gaming. Now gaming is for gamers, but gambling. But there's certain areas that are just growing enormously, and we might talk about even the issues, the not moral, but basically just the problems. I quit really big sports gambling in 1995 because before that I had a gambling problem. Anyway, True Domains. Alex, what comment did you have about that? I mean, you see the problems. I can't wait to talk to Fred. At ICA, but Doma and Domora, no one has to preach to us about fractionalization. It's the same thing. People are willing to do it if the valuation is so attractive, but it's like no one even listens to that. They still go, "We got a great name. We're going to bring." We don't care if it's $1 million name if you're charging $3 million for it. So then it's complicated and definitely not worth it. So, what comment do you have, Alex, and anybody else? I see a bunch of great, smart folks in the room, and then I see some not so smart. But anyway, come on up and give your 2 cents. What do you think, Alex?
No, 100. Like I'd say to everyone's point, when it comes to tokenization in general, I feel as though it is a next step in the evolution of domains. I feel as though domains are an asset, and therefore, if it is an asset, the more utility you add to that asset, the greater it becomes. And so, when it comes to just tokenization in general, when it comes to both, say, Domora and Doma, I'm starting to see more people are willing to put their names on there. I would just have to say, to your point, Todd, it's really just the valuations. I think everybody has a bad time because they're attached to their name, actually valuing their names to a good wholesale and retail price. And so if that isn't set up in the beginning, right, then a lot of junk goes through. And when people see a junk, they're just like, okay, well, what the hell is going on? Like, what the hell is this? And so that deters a lot of people. What I will say, though, is that more people are getting interested in the space. I'm seeing like top domainers, to your point, you saying Fred that's in the space. Who else it is? I think it's like Maelstrom Fund or like Alstrom Fund from like the crypto space is a very big, I would say, crypto investor. I'm seeing that he's in the space now. So I feel like the investors are there. But as far as user base, if people are able to actually price their names at a reasonable valuation, everything is going to get more traction. I've personally used it, so I've put like, I think it was like FlashDrive.xyz and UHVC, so that was like a 4-letter on the platform, and I got them pretty cheap, so anywhere between like 50 to 100 for the names, and there were investors, so there were people that were willing to. I want to say total now is around like $500 that I've gotten from people just buying, units of these names. And I tried to do it so that it would be a reasonable wholesale and retail value. But to your point, there was more traction. I would say last year was a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, pent up excitement to see if there is a market. Where we've come to realize that there is a market for this. It's just how we're going to navigate it. And honestly, I'm speaking for myself. My goal for this year is actually to put more names on chain and to actually see more higher end names on chain as well. And I don't want to, spoil too much, but yes, that's going to be one of my goals for this year. But to your point, Josh, 100%, man, it's like we need to do this right. And tokenization is just one aspect of domain names. It's not the only solution. To Todd, I would love to see like a fund at some point come together where we're all putting together really good premium names and then just building on them and creating that as a fund. I'm really surprised that hasn't been done yet because we already know the value And a lot of the tech is already there. So I'm surprised I don't see that in the domain space. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But amazing space as always, guys. And yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much on this because you guys know my thoughts. I've said it a million times before. And it's turning out exactly like I thought it was. A lot of for reasons Josh said, even other reasons too. And really, if fractionalization was something that could be sustainable within the domain industry, we don't need blockchain for it. It would have been done 10 years ago, right? And part of the problem is exactly that. Most of the people who are feeding into it either overvalue their domains at wholesale or have unreasonable expectations, which is normal because that's what happens in the domain industry. Most people are not successful. So, and then if you have successful domain investors, well, why would they want to dilute the percentage of ownership of their domains and have more restrictions on what they can do with it? There's just so many reasons why it just doesn't make any sense for long term. I mean, you will have one-offs here and there, and yeah, I think the danger is, I guess you don't like me warning people about stuff, but with the Web3, the blockchain names, whatever it is, the same thing is going to happen. You're going to have a cycle of crypto whales coming in, dumping money into it, and making it look a lot more valuable than it is. Same thing with NFTs, right? It's not that there's zero value, but it's just that the value that is appeared to be there is not quite there. And at a certain point, that demand will burn off because the results will not be there, and people will be left holding the bag, right? And it's just, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to stop because I could go on forever, and I just, be careful is all I'm going to say. I know you don't like when I say that, but I'm saying it anyways.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Hey, Josh, do you hear static when anybody talks, or is that just me? I'm hearing static, but I think it's just my anything. Is everybody clear when you're hearing him, Josh? Hello?
Everybody except for you, it seems.
Sorry, yeah,
No,
no,
that's
no,
all
it's
cool.
it's
No.
all. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. But yeah, it's clear for me.
Okay. I don't know. It must just be my headset, but that's fine. I hear everybody fine, but there was a little static. I want to make sure in the recordings. Um, well, no, quickly about it. Yeah, Alex was talking about two different things. One, putting names on chain. All right, that's one thing, and then fractionalizing is the other. Of course, you're using the on chain to make the fractionalizing supposedly easier, and that's why I agree, Alex, about why aren't people developing. People want to partner with other people and they want to develop them out. And that's a little bit why I think somebody had a name and they're thinking, geez, this is hypothetical, but you got a name and you think, listen, I'd like to work with Todd and Chad on developing out this name. And the thing is, people have so many names. So, Eric, I know like you got over 3,000 names. You're worried about these two. You may not get any accepted, but these two, you give up 50% ownership. This one, 50% ownership at a wholesale price that's reasonable. You got to agree to it, and then you get a ride along. Then you get to be. Then you can get paid when Chad or Josh or a lot of them, I'm not mentioning any other names. Is when they sell one of their names at retail. Of course, you only get the piece that you're part of the fund, but still, the point is, it does make sense of why it's like us domain investors, why we don't want to have just one domain name. You want to have many domain names, and you really want to have only many domain names if they all have a low cost basis. And then you're like, it'd be nice if you really had names and they didn't have renewals, and now you could really just sit there. Renewals, another story. But yeah, about the complication, it's not that it's like when I do things, especially when let's say that about the fund. Yeah, certainly reserve the right to monetize the domain name. Now it's the fund's name, okay? You own 50% of it, but we manage it. And if we want to monetize it, of course, yeah, you're going to have trust. I hope they don't put porn up on it. And people are going to come up with different, not obstructions. What was my word?
Use cases.
What?
Objections.
Yeah, sorry. My mate Brian still met him when I was drinking 35 years ago. So the objection, but it's not going to be for everybody. And plus, I mean, you guys have got a load of some personalities too. You could see some people, I'm thinking, dude, you could give me the greatest valuation. I don't even want you to be part of this. I don't want to have to even talk with you maybe. So the truth is, it is going to be um, when I say private, it's going to be, certainly um, curated to a point where the name's going to be curated and so is the person. It's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And then somebody with their bullshit attitude. So the point is, it's like, and I see Jason.com here. I really miss seeing Jason. They didn't make it to South Florida, but I'll be there here in the middle of the year, and I'm going to go see him. I want to hang out with him. Why do I like the guy? It's weird. I don't know. But he owns Domain Pool, and I really love that name, as not as much as Domain Fund, but I love Domain Pool because that's really all you're wanting to do is pool your name with other guys. And there's ways to do it that's much more casual and not, say, officially structured, but I want to do it, structured, official, distribution is understood, transparent. But I like the idea of just guys pooling names and two guys, whether it's Josh and Josh, buying a name together because they think that's a good price. I want to go along, maybe two or three people, basically pooling resources. So I just love the idea. But when these guys were seeing Doma and Domora, you know, you're just adding a bunch. The meal was fine. It already had a few spices on it. Now you guys want to fucking tokenize it and this, and then you're telling everybody how it's going to be better. Listen, like I said, I reserve the right to tokenize domain names. If I want to tokenize a name in the fund, I'm going to reserve the right to do it. Okay, but I'm like old school. Only if it helps me manage it and sell it. But it's not because I'm going to divide the ownership 50% with the domain owner 50%. I don't need to do that. But I like the idea of reserving the right, basically, to do anything I want to make the fund profitable, make the fund successful. And that is, if I think, listen, with this name, I can set up, and we know we can. We're doing it on some of. I know we can take this name, and this is separate, but get leads from this particular name, or get just a small amount, whether it's $200 a month. Well, we reserve the right to do that. While we're hoping for that name to sell, while we're trying to price it right, and while we're trying to. And I was going to say that, in what we're doing at Domain Fund too, is the fund is responsible for all renewals. And like I said, there's going to be a limit too, 5 years. If it doesn't sell, then how do we plan on, exiting, liquidating? And there's ways to do that. And well, I want to get to one thing, Josh, and anybody has any questions, come on up. Now there's only 15 minutes left, but there was once again, there's been posts about, when even Drew commented on a post that Shane had about, you privately sell a name at auction, no one shows up. Soon as it's an expired auction, everyone shows up. We know that. I mean, it's beating the drum we've beat forever, and we get mad about it. And so my question, Josh, is, GoDaddy had tried it before. I mean, basically, like, let you ride along, and I don't know, they'll say they did, like 2016, 17, for somehow it didn't work. But is there anything that's ever going to change in that area? And can you come in, and would you change it if you say we're in their position? I mean, how can we be part of the expiration path as domain investors, or how can we auction our names to get more money? Or is that's just over with? You can't privately, you never make any money. The registrars make the money, and it's just how it's going to stay.
You can. It can happen. You just need the right you need the right builders to build out the right product and be able to market it to the right people, which is so much easier said than done. It's something that I've considered, but it's a lot of work. And there are some reasons why it will never be as popular as expired auctions, purely because the auctions are expired and they're coming from a different source other than domainers a lot of the time. Most of the expired auctions are names that haven't been on the market, and that is appealing. There's no doubt about that. That is appealing. So there's just a different mindset going into those. Having said that, there is not a good platform out there currently for people to put their names up for auction. So, you know, until there is one that is marketed well and has the trust of people that, want to liquidate names, yeah, it's kind of like reserve the right to change my mind, of course, but we don't fully know how well that market could work.
Yeah, plus the other factor with expired domains is that there's effectively no reserve for whatever it's $25 or $12 or whatever GoDaddy has nowadays, $1. But I mean that's a big factor too, right? Most domainers aren't willing to let go of their domains.
Right, and they're just delusional. They don't understand. They don't. As soon as the domain is owned by a domainer, they automatically think it's more valuable than it is. So
I remember, like, again, Todd, I know you like me rounding on about this all the time, but I still remember when I was talking to Rob Monster at Epic when they Liquidate. It was like, okay, setting it up was great. And he took a lot of my feedback and the feedback from others and whatever it was. And the platform itself was pretty good. He had a lot of eyeballs from the industry because at that point in time, Epic was, a mover and a shaker and like kind of like, I guess, Unstoppable or Spaceship is now, and Spaceship is not bigger, but he had the potential. But I told him like it's good to build the system in place. I told him to take 15% commission. He only had taken 9% commission. But I told him when you start, you have to make sure you have the right amount. You have to have a certain number, like a strong enough number of buyers and sellers, right? You need that critical mass on both sides. And as Josh was alluding to before, that's so difficult to do in our industry. We're not that big an industry, right? Is it possible? Yeah, you get the perfect sort of everything together. You pull in, a bunch of domainers. You go, okay, this is the day we're going to start, and we're all going to, check stuff and buy stuff we like, and be reasonable with our reserves and all that stuff. And is it possible? I think it is. Is it likely? I think there's so many challenges and there's so much difficulty in our industry, and we're just able to get everybody together. And I don't know. It's not impossible, but as Josh says, I don't know if it's worth bothering unless you have a large audience. Spaceship is like that can do that, but these larger companies, they would rather push fewer domains, but all the domains they get 100% of the profit on, right? Like if GoDaddy were to put our domains and take the same usual, set an average 20% commission, well, now all of a sudden they're losing 80% of the potential sales. So they might sell fewer domains, but they're going to still sell better domains and get 100%. And yeah, sure, they might sell a couple less here or there, but the money that's coming in is going to come in. And so there's no motivation for one of the larger players to do it.
Yeah, a little delay there. Well, the motivation would be, say, right, besides GoDaddy, and then I really like NameBright to say, because you can go through drop catches. Listen, I'm consciously, because I have a partnership with you, we've agreed to this, I'm consciously letting my name expire because of the view of in the aftermarket. People see expired names. So I know now I can sell them privately through NameBright, right, through drop catch, but I want it to show expire. I don't want to show private seller. So and they could do, let's come up with an agreement. I'm consciously letting it expire, and I'm, going to, so it's going to show exactly the same as an expired name at auction, but yet on this particular name, we have an agreement. And the agreement is, part of the agreement the domain owner has to say is, yes, I'm letting it go for no reserve, but the agreement on the registrar side would be, I'm going to cut you in this percent. So a lot of us would do it. Names that we were dropping anyway, because I've dropped a lot of names, age names, 15-year-old names I didn't want anymore, but yet people were buying them for $50, $150, $350 on GoDaddy expired. If I got any percentage of that, 5% to 50% to whatever. So a registrar could do that with you. And you're saying, but why would they? They'll just let you drop. Well, there's those in between names that you don't drop, that you keep renewing because you can't get anything of you're going to get zero, so you renew it. So there is money to be made for a registrar that would be willing to you know work something out. Now, how much? Maybe it's not worth their time, not worth the engineers doing it. Is it? But to me, it's already in place. So really, just no
Here's the
one wants
thing.
to break you off. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. When I was talking about with Rob way back then in Epic, the reason for doing that is because he wanted to get market share. He wanted to get domainers to come, bring their domains over. He wanted to stick it to GoDaddy, wherever it is, and wherever it is. So look, today, who's positioned to want to grow and get more domainers into their ecosystem and get more, their whatever they think maybe Unstoppable would be the right fit for something like this. If we make a push and go, look, if you start doing this, we're going to start moving our domains over to you en masse. Although they're already, letting us transfer stuff there for like $5 or $6, I think it is now. So like, we still should be going there. But at the same time, like, longer term, with renewals, you want to keep them at Unstoppable. Well, yeah, that's a good gimmick. Well, gimmick. It's not a gimmick. It's a good, strategy for a new wannabe upcoming registrar to do to get domain investors to move domains over in volume. Tell them, look, well, when your domain expires with us, you'll get 80% or whatever percentage is, but a significant percentage. And yeah, you know what? That will be a difference maker, especially if the renewals are at cost or more like that, right? Is I'm not losing out. So I think there's a couple places that might do that. I think, well, I don't know, but if the renewal is $15, then it's not worth it. But if it's price competitive on everything else, and then all of a sudden your domains are going to be liquidated and you'll get a cut, like great. I mean, I finally transferred out my last 2 domains from Epic a few months ago, but before that, I had a few left and we'll let them expire. I get this email saying, oh yeah, you got $27 or $42, whatever it is, right? Because it's sold and there's your 91% or whatever. I don't know what the commission is now, but whatever it was, I got a cut from it, and that's longer term. That's great. When you start getting those things and you have like thousands of domains, and every year you let a few hundred expire, well, you're going to get some revenue, and that's going to be a difference maker, and you're going to want to keep your business with them. So yeah, I think if you really want something like that, let's talk to guys at Unstoppable. It's perfectly timed too, because I think it's been less than a year since they really started making that push. So, it's perfect timing.
Go ahead, Josh. They'd have to show that they are doing expired names successful with just expired names first of all, because the only ones I seeing are successful. Well, I mean, I know that several places are, but the top 2 are going through GoDaddy expired auctions or through Dropcatch. Those are the ones. So anybody else that's I know a lot of registrars are holding on to the names. Basically, when they expire, they offer them through whether it's Namejet or so on. But I need to see some success before I'd say, okay, over at Unstoppable. But I look forward to talking to Brady and to Matt, next week too. Before we finish up today, because we're going to finish, matter of fact, how to finish right now. We're going to finish up.
Yeah, it's about the buyers as well, right? Like I wouldn't want my names going through an expired auction unless it was GoDaddy's. So
not even Dropcatch. Do you buy much at Dropcatch?
Dropcatch, maybe, but still, GoDaddy's buyer pool is still bigger. Do I buy much at Dropcatch now? I built a portion of my portfolio with uncontested and discount back orders, but I never really got into bidding on Dropcatch now.
Yeah, I just hope, I like Dropcatch, and I would just hope, but you're right. There's just something. GoDaddy has the eyes and has the name, and that's where you'd really want to be. Maybe there's, new guy. We'll see what's going on next week. There's 4 reps from GoDaddy going to be at the ICA, and of course, the Internet Commerce Association is an industry organization. Most of us are domain investors there, but of course, I always mention a lot of the registrars are there, members, and they have staff that's going from Dynadot to I don't know if Namecheap. I still can't figure out. Are they not a member? Considering that they're one of the big ones, but most of the registrars, Pork Bun. I mean, they are, and of course, Name Bright are members, and I love, being able to speak with the registrars. There's some registries that are members. Okay, I won't go into it. The lawyers and of course brokers. A lot of people that aren't necessarily domain investors, but they sure act like, yeah, I know domain investing. I have a few myself, but we know the pure domain investors when we're there, because a lot of the people are just ones who, like at these other events, make money off domain investors, and that's why, like the organization, we band together, even the domain investors within the ICA, to say, listen, we would like to see some of this out of you guys as brokers, or out of you registrars and so on, or other support companies. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. We are going to be here next week, even though Josh and I are going to be with a lot of you in Las Vegas at the ICA. I'll jump on here and make sure that we can give you a little bit of update, anything that's happening from there. We may just go an hour or hour and a half next week, but normally we're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll go for 2 hours, open discussion about domain investing. Thanks for joining us today, and launching our first show of the year. And then I don't want to still want to say on Tuesdays, I do domain name law with Jeff and David. Please consider joining. If you do, is just look on my timeline and you'll see that's when we talk about domain name legal news and some UDRP reviews. Thanks again. Thanks, Josh. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I really look forward to seeing you next week. It's going to be a good time. Everybody, enjoy the rest of the day wherever you're at. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.